Where exactly were you speaking, please?
Winchester, which is in the county of Hampshire, and Hampshire is part of the South East constituency for the European Union elections, which I'm standing in. So I thought, as it's part of my constituency, I will go down and try and explain to these people who do not live nearby to a Muslim community something about Islam to them.
You were actually speaking to a crowd about as standing as a candidate in an election in a riding in which you were one of the candidates. How many people would you say were listening to you?
Well, in the beginning, let's face it, none of this lasted for very long. I'm afraid we had. I started off by saying to them that people of Winchester, I want to talk to you specifically about Islam, and I want to read something to you. And then I started reading it. We were immediately interrupted by this woman, who then immediately got on her phone, and we rightly assumed that she had phoned the police. And within about 3 minutes, the police had arrived and taken my megaphone away from me and taken my transcript of Churchill's words, and said that I could no longer do that because my words were causing offence and distress to people who were listening.
Did your audience or the police know at the time that you were quoting Churchill? Or did they know after? At what point did they know it was Churchill you were quoting? Did you start out by saying that this is Winston Churchill, or were you saving that for the end of the quote?
Well, no, I was never actually going to mention it at all. If I hadn't been arrested, I would have mentioned it was Winston Churchill. Having been arrested, I thought there's absolutely no point informing the police about this, because they will then perhaps be slightly less forward in taking action. And I thought that if it really has come to the point that you can be arrested for saying these words, then don't tell them who originally said it, and let them prosecute you, prosecute you, and just to show the rest of the world how utterly sunk this poor old country of Britain is today.
Interesting, I agree with that. Did among the people that were there when you started, did you have any supporters that were listening?
We did. We had we got passers-by initially, and a small crowd formed, but this was literally all over within 3 minutes. But by the time it ended, we had people shouting from the crowd, "What are you arresting him for? There's nothing wrong with what he's saying," which was probably about 80% of the people with that view, and the 20%, of course, were shouting things like "You're a bunch of Nazis," and the usual stuff that either the hard left or the totally uninformed about Islam come out with.
How dreadful are the curses which Islam lays on its votaries. Besides the fanatical frenzy, which is as dangerous in a man as hydrophobia in a dog, there is this fearful, fatalistic apathy. The effects are apparent in many countries. Improvident habits, slovenly systems of agriculture, sluggish methods of commerce, and insecurity of property exist wherever the followers of the Prophet Muhammad rule or live. A degraded sensualism deprives this life of its grace and refinement, and the next of its dignity and sanctity. The fact that in Islamic law every woman must belong to some man as his absolute property, either as a wife, a child, or a concubine, must delay the final extinction of slavery until the faith of Islam has ceased to be a great power amongst men. Individual Muslims may show splendid qualities, but the influence of the Islamic religion paralyzes the social development of those who follow it. No stronger retrograde force exists in this world, and far from it being moribund, Islamism is a militant and proselytizing faith. It has already spread throughout Central Africa, raising fearless warriors at every step. And were it not that Christianity is sheltered in the strong arms of science, the science against which Islam has vainly struggled, the civilization of modern Europe might fall, as fell the civilization of ancient Rome.
What is a charge that you believe that's going to be leveled at you?
Well, in the beginning, they said they said to me that because my words were causing concern and distress, I should immediately cease. When I said that I wasn't going to do that, they said, if you don't cease, we will arrest you under something called a breach of the Section 27 dispersal notice. And I said, well, that's fine, but I am standing for an election in this constituency. I have the right to free speech. I will continue speaking. I picked up the megaphone again. I think I got about 2 words out, and that was it. I was manhandled down the steps and then searched and chucked in the back of their police van. When we got to the police station, I wasn't fingerprinted. My DNA wasn't taken because a Section 27 is not necessarily a criminal offence. So they said, we're not going to fingerprint and DNA you. They put me into a cell and they kept me there, I think, for about 5 hours. And then a policeman came in and said, we are dropping the original thing, which was this Section 27 breach. We are rearresting you in the police station now under the incitement of racial hatred. And they specifically, they are getting me with racially aggravated crime under Section 4 of the Public Order Act, which I've had a look at, and it's rather nasty. It says that you can go to jail for 2 years under that one.
Major media in the UK, has there been any interest in this? Any attempts to, any requests for interviews by BBC or even the Daily Mail or anything?
No, there has been absolutely nothing. I got a phone call earlier from the Southampton Echo, which also covers the Winchester area, and I didn't get a phone call. I got a message saying, can I phone the journalist, though? And I was expecting an antagonistic bloke, and that's exactly what I got. He was not horrified about the idea you can be arrested for quoting Churchill in Britain today. He wanted to know why I did it, what I thought I would achieve. Was I aware that by doing that I would be causing offence and distress, and all the buzzwords they come out with. So that's the only British media outlet that has come anywhere near me, and it was immediately antagonistic. Apart from that, there has been nothing.
Would you say that the attitude of the police was that we're dealing with you, both in the police station and the initial arrest? Did you get any sense of their view of this?
Well, the two policemen that initially arrested me were very young. They didn't really have the faintest idea what was going on. It was only when I got to the police station that was then dropped, and a senior policeman then brought in the charges of racially aggravated crime. But despite that, I can understand they're following orders. The actual policemen themselves were very polite, very civilized. One of them even talked to me for half an hour after the interview, because I had a taped interview in the interview room, and I was supposed to go back to the cell, and he said, look, we're going to arrange bail for you. You don't need to go back to the cell. We can sit in here and have a cup of coffee and a sandwich and have a chat off the record. And off the record, he said to me that we are essentially at war in this country. But of course, I'm not, in my official capacity, allowed to say anything about that.
What would you like to see happen? Like, what do you expect to happen next? There's going to be a trial then? Like, you've been formally charged, or at least you're going to be formally charged. Do you know anything about when there might be a trial?
Well, I've been bailed for 3 weeks. I'm due to go back to the police station on May the 24th, and I am assuming that in the interim period, what the investigating officer said to me at the time was, he will forward everything, including the obviously, because they don't have video of me doing it. They are just responding to a report from the crowd. They heard a few words that I said, but what they have said, they have taken a copy of the Churchill transcript, and they are sending that on to the Crown Prosecution Service, with the recommendation that I be prosecuted under this racially aggravated Section 4. So somewhere between now and May the 24th, if the Crown Prosecution Service says, yes, we're going to go ahead and prosecute him, then I'm assuming that when I go back to the police station on May the 24th, I will be arrested and held.
So for the benefit of people that don't live in the UK, what level of court and meaning of court, it's the court system there is a little different than it is either in Canada or the States. This would be in front of a magistrate or a judge, or it's a criminal proceeding, right?
It's a criminal proceeding, but criminal proceedings can be dealt with in magistrates' courts. But I would imagine, because clearly, if they are intending to prosecute, then we're obviously going to mount a proper defence. So it would probably go to a Crown Court hearing with a judge, which is similar to I'm sure you heard about the whole Tim Burton Takia trial recently.
Very much so.
And of course, Tim got off on that one, and the Crown Prosecution Service must have been aware that he was probably going to get off, but the Crown Prosecution Service was taken over by the cultural Marxist left a long time ago, 20 years ago now. They will prosecute anything they possibly can, even if they know they're going to lose it, simply because they think that by prosecuting they will deter anybody else from doing it, even if they win in court. They still don't want to have to go through that pretty unpleasant situation, especially when the power they have on their side is the fact that if you are found guilty, the sentence is 2 years.
Is there anything that people both inside or outside the UK could do to help you? What are you fundraising, or do you just want to raise awareness of this, or what is it you'd like to see people do?
Well, I think at the moment it's just to raise awareness, because I know that I always knew before this happened that the probability of my being arrested was very high, and the probability of the British media taking any interest in it was very low. And I thought that this is where we need, and thank God they exist, a country, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, where you can actually still say these things and get away with it. And my initial thought was, if we can get this into, for example, I think I'll be with Michael Corran next week, and Eric Stackelbeck is trying to organise something for Fox News, and Glenn Beck. So if we can make it big enough in America that the media over here are simply forced into having to report it, then that would basically satisfy every single reason for why I did this in the first place.